there is growing debate about whether Nigeria is finally moving out of an adjustment phase or simply entering into new set of constraints. So as we head into 2026, and as we begin the year with, optimism, what does the Nigeria economic outlook look like on a balance? Is it stabilizing, still adjusting, or facing new pressures?
Well, I think I will actually have to talk through this thing from looking at it from different perspective. In isolation, when you're looking at Nigeria in isolation, of course, you will see an economy that is ready to fly. Currently, the country is lighter now. It simply means that we can move faster than where we were in 2023. We've seen a bit of stability across board. On the FX side, the currency has been stable. And I think in a long time, this is about the first year that we will see currency stable across the year. And no thanks to the CBN governor for the introduction of the FM window that actually brought about market transparency, price discovery, and also improved the level of liquidity in that area. So if you're looking at Nigeria in isolation, you will see a country that is ready to actually move. A country where you feel that is bullish on capital expenditure to further actually improve the level of growth in the economy, improve the standard of living of people, and also find a way to actually improve the revenue generating capacity of the government. But the flip side of it is that Nigeria is not living in isolation. But when you start looking at what is happening globally, you start looking at the US-Venezuela saga, you're looking at US-Iran saga. These are some of the things that is now more of like a concern to Nigeria. And don't forget that Nigeria is more like it's an oil-producing nation. So it simply means whatever is happening in the global market in that regard, will have one way or the other, will have impact on Nigeria. If oil price actually drive aggressively, what it would simply mean that the FX generating capacity of the country will actually drop. That will put a bit of pressure on the reserve, and also that will actually affect the currency. So it simply means that what the postulation and everything that the government is trying to do, you can't do it in isolation of what is happening globally. And that's one of the reasons why I say if you want to look at Nigeria in isolation, you see a country that is have moved past the level of stability, but a level moving into a realm of growth. But when you start actually now factoring out that global crisis, then you feel that it's an economy where you still need to actually look carefully before you actually jump.
Yeah, great. I mean, we would have a conversation about the Nigeria budget. You already touched on the capital expenditure. We didn't do well last year on capital expenditure, and it's been like that for the last couple of years. The recurrent expenditure have always been met 100%, but capital expenditure somewhere around 60% in the best of years when the government have actually gone ahead to fulfill that aspect of the budget. But we'll talk more about that as we progress on the program. Now, many observers argue that this year, 2026, will represent a break from the immediate post-reform years. Now, what makes 2026, to your mind, meaningfully different from what we saw 2024, 2025 in terms of economic conditions and policy constraints?
Well, like I mentioned, 2023 is the year where you need to make that bold calls. 2024 is a year where you start seeing the impact of those bold calls. 2025 is a year where you start stabilizing the ship after that stormy moment. And 2026, a year where you cannot give excuse to the people. It's a year where people need to start seeing the impact. You can't say you have removed subsidy in 2023, and you are still saying that that's one of the reasons why people are still feeling a level of impact in 2026. And that's a whopping 3 years already. So it's a year where government knows very well that people need to see the full impact. I mean, the positive impact of some of those reforms. And the government also have also mentioned earlier on that some of these reform, some of them are short term, some of them are medium term, and some of them are long term in nature. So the short term policies, people expect to start seeing the impact positively. And that's one of the reasons why a lot of people have the view that it's going to be a remarkable year. And don't also forget that this is the last line that the current government has to actually rewrite their name. They also need that for the doubters that have been doubting them, they have another room to also show what they are able to do. Because by September, November, we're already moving closer to election month. And what that will mean is that it's not a time where you can work. And it's a time where you are actually running around to actually convert for vote. So it simply means that they have between now and the month of September to do that magic and allow people to see the impact, because that will determine how people will actually cast their vote in next year election.
Dipo, if you ask me, I would say we would actually spend more than half of the year politicking, given by past experiences. So whatever needs to be done actually should be something like getting moving, like government needs to really hit the ground moving in January for us to begin to witness any substantial impact of the budget, because by the second half of the year, actually, when primaries might have started, primaries for the 2027 elections might have started, I think governance is put at abeyance at that time, and what happens is merely politicking. And so it really will be a test for this government to see how far they want to implement the 2026 budget. Now, moving forward from there, I know you must have read many of these reports about the projections for the economy. So multilateral institutions are projecting stronger growth for Nigeria in 2026, but the assumptions behind those forecasts matter. I'm sure you agree with me. Now, so projections from institutions like World Bank and PwC are estimating the real GDP growth of around 4.3 to about 4.4% in 2026. Now, what specific factors do you see driving this acceleration, and how might investors position themselves to benefit?
Well, if you look at the GDP growth expectations, they look the same across all time. Everyone is looking at lots of 4% growth and for Nigeria in the year 2026. And like I mentioned earlier on, the only issue that could actually impact us negatively in that regard is the contagion effects of what is happening globally. But because if you remove that, I think we'll be good to go. For this year GDP, for the year 2025 GDP results, I'm actually still rooting for a 4% as the minimum by the time that is actually released to the markets. And so it simply means that if you can do a 4% in a year where you are still stabilizing, you are still trying to find your roots, what do you expect in a year where you have finally found your footsteps? And that's one of the reasons why a lot of people is expecting a better level of GDP growth. And I think in one of our programs, I mentioned something that if the government can aggressively look at what is happening in the agricultural sector, because when you look at the percentage of contribution to the whole basket, I think it's about 24%, if I'm not actually wrong. And if you have something weighing close to about 24% in your basket, if you can actually put all efforts to that, and you can actually push the agricultural sector to grow very close to double digits, I'm telling you, even a 4.5% would be more like we actually under expecting growth, under expected growth for Nigeria economy. So I think one of the things that the government can do is to find a way to actually be more active in the agricultural sector. In terms of seedling, ensure that they help farmers with quality seedling, in terms of storage, work with farmers on a way to actually provide storage capacity for some of these farmers. Because these are some of the problems that most of these farmers have been going through. Most especially those ones that are actually producing perishable goods. So it simply means that between months of harvest, the next thing you see is that some of these things they are not marketable again. And it becomes a problem as a law and a lot to some of these farmers. So if government can actually come in that regard, also in terms of farm mechanizations, also in terms of agricultural loan support. Of course, the government has tried to actually resuscitate the Nigeria Bank of Agricultural Bank.
Yes.
And I think the capitalization they are looking at close to about 1.5 trillion. If government can actually be deliberate about this and also follow this to the letter, and I think that with that we can actually get more than what we actually projected to actually achieve in this year. Imagine farmers being able to actually assess one, being able to actually utilize this fund, and also another thing also is the security aspect of the economy.
I was going to talk about that as well, and so for the security issue is obvious.
Because that's some of the concern that most of these farmers also have. But I think with this partnership with the United States, I feel that it may likely bring forth a good fruit. I was reading somewhere yesterday that United States budgeted close to about 450 billion naira to actually support Nigeria in terms of security stuff. And when you look at it from that perspective, it means that we are getting global attention. And in the global environment, also trying to see how they can actually help us stabilize our economy in terms of the security of farmers, of the people, and the nation as a whole. What that will bring forth is that it means that farmer can actually go to farm and sleep without actually being scared. Also means that production will increase. And when production increases, it means that price will drop. When price drop, it means that inflation will drop. When inflation drop, interest rates will drop. When inflation will drop, then people will be able to borrow at a lower rate. Most especially businesses and most especially even the small, medium scale enterprises as well. They'll be able to access funds at a very cheap rate. And the end goal is that the country will be more productive. There will be more employment opportunity, and the 4.4 growth that we are even talking about will mean that we have underestimated the expected growth for the year.
Right, great. So I see you projecting agriculture as an area that everyone should pay attention to, including government and individuals looking to invest, because it has huge potential for growth, as you have highlighted.